Welcome back, folks. With Juno having been in almost every match during the World Finals, I think it's about time we do a guide on my current favorite hero. Whether you're new to Juno or you've already got 100 hours on her, get ready for some great tips and tricks to help you step up your Martian game. Juno is the 41st hero, has 225 health, and is from Mars. Her parents, however, are from Vietnam and Singapore. 150 of her health is shield, and only 75 of her total health is normal health. She has one passive ability other than the support passive, which gives all supports lower cooldown on self-healing. Her passive Martian Overboots lets her double jump by double tapping space, and she can glide slowly down by holding space. Her main method of healing is her primary fire, which is much like Anna's gun in the sense that it will heal teammates, but damage enemies depending on what it hits. Her Medi Blaster is hit scan and does 7.5 damage per round or 90 damage per full burst. This does have dramatic fall off though, with her minimum damage being 2.25 damage per round or 27 damage per burst at or beyond 35 meters. It does 6 healing per round or 72 healing per burst, with healing fall off all the way down to 1.8 healing per round or 21.6 healing per burst at or beyond 35 meters. Juno also has a second method of healing and damaging, her pulsar torpedoes. These are torpedoes that lock onto enemies and teammates and will do 85 damage to every enemy it hits and 85 healing plus 50 overtime to any teammate it hits. This ability is on a 10-second cooldown, and the cooldown is reset upon firing the torpedoes. If you don't get a lock on anybody, then the cooldown is only 2 seconds. This also applies if you manually deactivate the torpedoes without a lock. The amount of time it takes to lock onto enemies scales based on distance, with the time to lock being 0.5 seconds at or below 5 meters, up to 1 second at 40 meters, the max targeting distance. These torpedoes are interesting because once they are fired, they do not have a maximum range. The torpedoes will follow enemies, and as long as they stay within LOS of the torpedo, it can even follow enemies behind walls. Another thing to note is that torpedoes ignore shields, but you cannot lock on through shields. Juno's shift ability, like many heroes, is her movement ability, Glide Boost. This allows Juno to fly on a single vertical plane, and she can use her double jump to move up to the next vertical plane. You cannot go up or down other than with the double jump, although you can use certain ledges and map geometry to gain height. We'll talk about that later. When activated, Juno gets a 390% speed boost initially, which then lingers as a 50% speed boost. The initial speed boost does not contribute to the global speed boost cap. Juno's E ability is Hyper Ring, also referred to as Speed Ring. This does exactly as the name implies. It's a ring that gives teammates a speed boost. It lasts 6 seconds and gives a 50% speed boost that lasts 3 seconds. This speed boost can be stacked with her Glide Boost up to the global speed boost cap of 75%. One interesting thing to note about Hyper Ring is that it will give any teammates a speed boost just by passing over them. This means that if you are behind your team, you can throw it through them and they immediately get boosted when it goes over them, and then another boost when they go back through it again. This also means that Juno doesn't have to go through the ring to get the boost, since it passes over her when she shoots it. Last but certainly not least is Juno's ult, Orbital Ray. This is a giant beam that comes down from the sky and slowly moves forward in the direction Juno was facing when fired. Orbital Ray gives any teammates inside the ray 85 heals per second, which is 20 more than Mercy's healing, and amplifies damage by 35%. Now, I'm gonna say this right now, and I'm also gonna say this again later when we get to the tips, because I need you to hear this. Whether you play Juno or not, turn on your ears. If Juno ults, walk with it. The only exception is if she ults inside of the enemy team or does something really stupid. But especially if Juno is with your whole team and she ults, walk with it. Do not back up. Do not run away. I don't care if you think the fight is a loss. I don't care if you're down a tank or a support or whatever. If Juno hits that ult, your options are A, walk with Orbital, getting heals and damage boosts the whole time and maybe have a chance to win the fight, or B, run away like a coward and die with your back turned. Ranting aside, let's start out with some basic tips. Even though you can't get higher than a double jump with her glide boots, you can still get up to things that are above you. Some terrain has geometry that allows you to sort of slide upward and gain altitude. You can hit shift after getting knocked up to start from a higher elevation too. One of my favorite things to counter on Juno is Ryan's ult. You can avoid it and multiple others by simply double jumping. Or if your timing is bad, you can double jump and hover. As long as you're above the ground far enough, you can avoid Ryan's Earth Shatter, Venture's Tectonic Shock. You can even avoid Mei's ult for a few seconds longer. Glide Boost also helps when getting pulled, knocked back, or sucked down by Rom. Get your head out of the gutter. Its initial speed boost gives you enough movement to get out of most of those, or to at least counteract their effects somewhat. As a bonus, you can also jump over Ryan's shield to throw him off and make him turn around. The torpedoes are a very effective way of keeping multiple people healed and doing damage all at once. Be careful though, because the torpedoes can act quite strange when trying to lock on. If you get a lock on and then try to fire, if you lose LOS at the same time, they will not fire, and it will give you the full cooldown. If you try to fire it before you have a full lock, it may also not fire and give you a full cooldown. But sometimes if you fire quickly enough with no locks, it will not do anything and continue trying to lock on, which is nice. My advice with the torpedoes is to try and get them out to your teammates when they're at half health or above. If your teammate is critical, use left click. It does a lot of healing and you can always fire a torpedo once you get them up to half. I like to fire my torpedoes when my team is starting to engage to let the torpedoes heal my team over time, essentially giving them an extra 50 health each. When trying to get back to point as fast as possible, don't make the mistake of throwing down a speed ring and hovering at the same time. To get the most out of both boosts, you'll want to throw your speed ring about 3 or 4 seconds before the spawn doors open. Then, you want to go through that and hover once it runs out. Also, always remember to speed your teammates at the beginning of each round and when traveling between points. You are essentially a Lucio that has to decide when and where to speed boost. Don't leave your team hanging. This one will take some practice, but it is a good idea to use Orbital Ray pretty much every time you get it. It's a fairly quick ult to build and is incredibly useful to your team, if they use it. Use it often, but make sure you are using it from a safe location, where most, if not your whole team, can make use of it. And don't make the mistake of accidentally activating it backwards. It takes half a second to activate, so just stay still. Now it's time to take a look at some intermediate tips for those of you who feel comfortable with Juno's kit. Juno doesn't have any self-healing or self-protection or anything like that, so she relies on her movement. Therefore, no matter where you are, you need to always have an escape plan. Whether that means double jump, hover away to a health pack, or speed ring closer to your team, whatever the case is, you need to always be ready to run from a Sombra or a McCree or anyone from that matter. Don't ever get comfortable because somebody will find you. Orbital Ray passes through anything and everything. It is literally a beam from space, so it doesn't matter if there are walls, barricades, bridges, even ceilings. The beam just keeps moving forward. This means it can catch the enemy off guard if you, say, throw your ult in from right outside the point. Or you can pop your ult to help your team move through multiple tight areas without having to worry about it getting stuck or worry about heals in that area. This one might be a little basic, but it does take some time to learn when to speed your tank and when to save it. Keep an eye on your tank's health and position. If you see your tank go critical and start backing up, perfect time to give them a ring. If your tank is full health and starts moving towards the enemy, speed him in. This translates to the whole team as well. If your tank runs off ahead and leaves you and the rest of the team behind, speed your team up to him. Use it to close gaps or to give space if needed. If you get dove by anything close range like a Reaper or a Monkey or even a ball, double jump. Get away as fast as you can. Then as you're flying away, spin around and start taking shots. Hit them with torpedoes. Do whatever you can to keep them off of you. Most of the time characters like Reaper and Monkey will be stuck there for a few seconds while they wait for their cooldowns. Juno does a surprising amount of damage and can take out a Winston very quickly. Just use your instincts and determine whether you can take the fight or not. But always give space. If they're ranged, give space and take cover. The most important thing you can protect as a support is yourself. If you die, nobody can get your heals. One of the worst mistakes I see Junos make is trying to play a DPS frontline Juno. Juno is squishy and needs to be treated as such. Hovering above your team and flying into the front is basically saying, hey, look at me, I'm an easy target. You want to be in the back of the team most of the time, where you can see everybody and be able to fire torpedoes to heal everybody in one shot. You can also sneak around the sides to get to teammates with your speed, but just don't get caught out. Save at least one movement ability to escape if need be. As I can't come up with many good advanced tips, I'm going to roll them all into one final bit of advanced advice, if you will. Juno is a very versatile hero. There's a reason she has such a high pick rate in pro play and ranked. She has a lot of healing, damage, and utility in her kit. Because of this, you want to make sure you are not getting stuck in a rut or tunnel visioning on one particular part of her kit. Don't run around and heal bot. Don't be a DPS Juno. Don't hide the entire game while throwing out your speed ring occasionally. Your whole kit is useful, but every part of it is situational and every part of it goes together. Your best thing that you can do is hop in quick play and just play a ton of Juno. Learn where to speed teammates, when and who to heal, when to do damage, and when to ult. Juno is fortunately and unfortunately one of those heroes that you just can't learn on paper. Go out and experience her, make mistakes, see firsthand why you shouldn't do certain things and why you should do other things. For the last portion, we're going to talk about who counters Juno. Juno can be countered by a number of heroes, but to me, none of them are what I would call hard counters. Hit scans, especially Ashe, can keep you out of the sky and potentially take you out of a fight. The best thing to do against hit scan is try and stay behind cover or strafe wildly when in the air. Another counter is Sombra. She can hack Juno while she's flying and hit her with Virus. If you're against a Sombra, try to stay close to your team for backup. Also, make sure you always have a speed ring or hover. If you use both, then Sombra can easily take you out and there's nothing you can do. Because Juno doesn't have any self-healing, she's vulnerable to heroes like Sombra, or Winston, Doom, Ball, anyone who can dive her like that. So just always be ready, and remember number 6, have an escape plan. My final thoughts are a couple of PSAs for everyone, whether you play Juno or not. Teammates, you need to stay in LOS. That goes for teams without a Juno too. Pay attention to where your supports are, because we can literally not do anything for you if you cut yourself off from heals. Also, to reiterate, if a Juno ults on your team, walk with it. Unless everybody on your team backs off of it, your best chance of survival is walking with Orbital. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I sincerely hope you learned something or made some kind of discovery that will help improve your game. If you did like this video, I'd really appreciate a little click of that thumbs up button, and if you want to see more, go ahead and caress that subscribe button real softly. I hope you have good games and enjoy the rest of your day. Peace.
Your lady thirsty, don't show mercy, she too curvy, controversy, suck my D, Kira skirt, she some mad, she Eddie Murphy, call her mama, start with daddy, she bad and bougie, down there, I'm popping tags, I'm in this bitch, make it slap, I'ma wake on up, I'ma get my bag, I'ma bust a nut, I'ma blow that bag, don't regret that shit, I'ma taste my bitch.